This story is neither fact nor fiction. It's about something stranger than both. And compared to that, what we call facts are just a fiction. It's not what it seems, just as the things around us aren't what they seem. If you listen on, you'll hear that this is all about deception, about the total deception of the world we live in, and about what lies behind. It might seem to be a story about things that happened a long time ago, but really, it's about ourselves. The details will probably be very unfamiliar indeed, and yet their significance reaches to the roots of our own being. There were those who walked the axis of worlds, the great pillar of fire and light that stitched the sky to the roots of the earth. They were the first navigators of reality. Their drums held invisible star maps, painted in dyes that only revealed themselves in the flicker of firelight. They learned the secret of the reverse breath, to draw in on the exhale and let go on the inhale. A key that could loosen the soul from the body without breaking its silver cord. A dangerous practice that could kill an unskilled practitioner and rupture them from their energetic body. In darkness, they crawled into the wombs of the earth, past the pattern wall of zigzags and spirals that bloomed inside their mind. They entered chambers that breathed with the weather, where stone pillars sang at 111 hertz, a sound that made edges of the self dissolve. Above, they climbed the skyladder, passing the Thunderbird's storm. Adorned in feathers because they act as conduits for energetic connection, transmission, and transformation. Stepping into the cosmic currents of constellations, where Orion is a hunter spirit, and the Pleiades are seven sisters who can bend time. Below, they swam through serpentine rivers, in the lower world, bargaining with amphibian guardians for the return of lost souls. And then there was the fourth world, the mirror behind the sun, where every shadow was your own, but reversed, and rivers ran uphill, and you could meet tomorrow before today was born. They were healers, seers, and time weavers, moving between realms where past and future stand side by side, and the oldest caves where the walls still breathe and the stone still remembers. They left their warning and their gift, carved in shadow and light. All time is now, but only the shaman knows the paths between its moments. Archive of timelines. From the moment you were born, your time is a one-way street, always moving forward, always out of reach. But that's not true. Memory can move forward. Future can whisper to the past. Walking through this veil will take you from ancient prophecy to cutting-edge physics, through forgotten past to the baffling, spooky, and very real way that time is just a figment of your consciousness. Shamanic gateways and experiments defy the flow of time. You'll see how the cycles of the yugas align with the findings of quantum research. How military-funded remote viewing quietly confirmed the possibility of retrocausality. And why some physicists only now suspect we could exist in a low entropy realm where laws of time can bend. In the 1960s, hidden deep in the folds of military intelligence, remote viewing experiments revealed something astonishing. When trained to quiet their minds, participants sometimes reported future events with unnerving accuracy. The data suggested that memory itself might be nonlinear, that consciousness could access information before it happened. Even more recently, an experiment in a lab demonstrated that under the right quantum conditions, scientists could effectively reverse the flow of time. Not in like a movie sense of time travel, but a restoring of a system's earlier state, like rewinding reality itself. This points to a truth hinted at in the mystery schools and whispered in modern labs. There is an isolated, low entropy realm in the quantum state, an untouched domain where the past, present, and future coexist, and in certain conditions, consciousness can step into it. Stay with me until the very end, because what you're about to uncover is the key of what was forgotten, what ancient shamans, mystics guarded. What they left behind, though, through stone, symbol, and spiral, is not myth. It's a map. And those who are in control know this and want it erased. Because throughout history, knowledge has been stolen, dismissed, and extinguished. But let's begin with time. All of time is now, and your mind is the gate. The past doesn't come before the future, it exists beside it, like books on a shelf. This isn't poetic speculation. Theories like the block universe and retrocausality suggest time may not flow the way we have been taught. The hypothetical, but very likely in the quantum realm, existence of tachyons means that they violate standard laws of causality, meaning effects happen before their causes. Because in the quantum, they appear as mathematical possibilities. And we know from occulted knowledge, anything that can exist does exist. Every moment, past, present, future, are in some way coexisting. But your conscious awareness is locked into a narrow slice, tuned like a radio to one frequency. Shamans, mystics, and initiates have understood that. When a shaman enters trance, they're not escaping reality, they're moving sideways into another part of the same vast structure. A different page of the cosmic script. Every moment you've ever lived, could live, exists right now. And in a frequency band, your awareness is just learning how to tune into. We are like babies, never really seeing reality for what it is. Because we wouldn't be able to compute it while navigating through it. So we live in the illusion, Maya. And the closer you look, the more structures you will find, layered beneath each other. Because you are the observer, and hence there is no end to the observable. You are both the path and the feet that walk the path. What you call memory may as well be a visitation. What you call imagination very well is a memory in reverse. To come from a lineage of shamans is to understand life force, to see it around you exactly for what it is. The shaman is the awakened one, the one who sees into the fabric of reality and where energy flows without the distraction of labels. Energy is free of syntax. This allows for a free view of a larger cognitive system, and intent is a strong force for the shaman. This idea of the shaman as a highly mystical being capable of bending time and seeing behind the curtain of reality is a recent description. Because in the past, they weren't seen as mystical, but as rather practical. The shamanic understanding that time is a vibrational, nonlinear, living field made them the first to have a genuine understanding of physics beyond the fundamental. Their understanding of subtle forces made information retrieval from beyond just like reaching into a river. What if you could dream and see what they saw, not metaphorically, but as a technique, a map, a memory, a means of navigating the universe? Memory is a loop, and sometimes it runs backwards. And you can have memories of the future. Shamans speak of astral light, a field that remembers everything, not just the past, but every probable future. And you occupy all of them at once. Michael Tabolt in the Holographic Universe describes cases where people experience events before they happen. What he called watching a movie backwards. Or, sorry, watching a backward movie of the future. I mean, I call it something completely else, something better, but he wasn't alone in thinking this. From precognitive dreams to military funded remote viewing, the data suggests something profound. Memory is nonlinear. Time might echo. In session after session, trained remote viewers access not just distant places, but events long past and sometimes yet to come. This wasn't imagination. Their hits were statistically significant, repeatedly verified against real world data. And what emerged was a quiet heresy that memory is not a mental archive of the past, but a living connection to a multidimensional field, a timeless substrate where all events exist at once. Time may be moving around you, and you are the pivot point. Neuroscience and trance workers understand that your brain doesn't store memories like files, it reconstructs them each time, live. That means you're not remembering the past, you're recreating it every single time. Each time, unbeknown to you, you changed the memory slightly, which is possibly influenced by your current or even future state. This is true. You never remember things the same way. This means you change your past, you change your memories, you change your future. This is where quantum jumping becomes more than just a metaphor. It's an act of conscious selection. You shift your resonance, and another version of you, one who's already made the leap or lives there, pulls you forward. That version is then displaced or split into a variable timeline. This is invisible, subtle, it's seamless, and constantly happening, unbeknown to you. You're constantly jumping timelines. You are a fractal within another fractal. And here's the mandatory Einstein quote: "The distinction between the past and the future is just a stubbornly persistent idea." David Bohm expressed the universe as unified, meaning deeper unseen factors that determine the seemingly random behavior of particles at the quantum level. He made the distinction between the outward manifest reality and the unmanifest realm. A very woo of him at the time. He proposed that the implicate orders are the baselines of the explicate orders in the material reality. In a sense, everything unfolds from within. The outer is the shadow of the inner, as the allegory of Plato's cave illustrates. To sum up about 50 pages of thick text from the book God, Science, and the Secret Doctrine, Bohm was onto the idea of the universe as a whole, as a hologram, consciousness, and matter and energy being woven into a cosmic, intelligent, cyclical system. Hidden variable theories try to explain quantum weirdness by saying the universe is actually deterministic, just with layers we don't see. But quantum experiments increasingly show reality may truly be non-local, indeterminate, and deeply strange. In 2024, physicists working in the quantum made a startling leap. They found a way to reverse the flow of time, at least for tiny particles. Researchers were able to manipulate entangled particles so that their quantum states evolved backwards, effectively undoing what had happened a moment before. This phenomena is rooted in the strange mathematics of quantum mechanics, where the fundamental equations have time symmetry, meaning nothing stops them from running in reverse. But in our everyday world, in this dimension of reality, the second law of thermodynamics, entropy, keeps time marching forward, and this is what we seemingly experience. The universe thinks, and what we call stuff is just thickened thought. There's an invisible field or astral light that permeates everything. It records and shapes physical reality. I wonder if this is recording. An energetic internet holding all information and connecting all minds. This is the original field shamans and ancient energy workers were tapping into. Modern physicists call it the quantum field. This is not just an exploration, it is a transmission, because near the end of this journey, we'll reach a revelation so veiled, so potent, it may reframe how you understand time, death, and identity, and your own reincarnational history. Science and esoteric wisdom are twins. Where science describes energy and waves, esotericism describes vibrations of thought and being. Quantum entanglement, as above, so below. Non-locality, the soul isn't stuck. It's not in one place. Unified field, I can't concentrate. Twins. Where science describes energy and waves, esotericism describes vibrations of thought and being. Quantum entanglement, as above, so below. Non-locality, the soul isn't stuck in one place. Unified field is the divine mind. Consciousness shapes matter. Consciousness isn't just forming reality, it's choosing which vibration of reality to step into. Quantum jumping illustrates how consciousness selects from infinite timelines of matter, and this physics is finally catching up to the mystics. Our thoughts and emotions send signals into the field. When you intentionally visualize or feel a new identity, you're communicating with the field. You're telling it, lock me into a different probability. And the field doesn't judge, it calculates. It works in probabilities. So your alignment in other things is necessary to tip the calculation in your favor. This is what the teachers call alignment. You see, shamans knew what only a few in physics are speaking about. The fact that reality isn't at all what you think, and that we have evolved to see the world through such a means as to not go crazy and to successfully procreate. But why? Why would nature evolve us like this, with such a handicap for only procreation? Well, for one, this could all just be a game, like literally, and shamans knew how to bypass the VR set and escape the NPC realm. And perhaps the shamans understood that the human body is a vessel of much more than just soul. Our DNA has compounding potential, and each cell has the potential to revitalize nations, colonies, or civilizations, like a computer storing everything. And I'm talking about planetary civilizations. In fact, shamans and ancients understood the nature of reality more than physicists do today. They can only confirm with certainty that spacetime is fundamentally different than what we experience. That, and that at 10 to the negative 33 centimeters, spacetime dissolves into weirdness. Well, Istakbentov explained it in a blinking fashion. Like Buddhist monks, I believe it's called chugal, a movement so fast it ceases to move. We will get to Buddhist monks. Just wait. Just wait. So it seems that only shamans, through trance, rhythm, dream, and botanicals, could understand what science keeps questioning. They're still questioning. We experience a projection, like a programmed virtual reality that is different from real reality, which physicists have identified to have shapes, dimensions. Science predicts that there is a much, much more to real reality than we see and know, but we do already know that. You can re-remember an event, which is what you already do anyway, and choose to do it in a positive light, thus changing the probability of an outcome in the future. Like, this is actual science. It's not just like law of attraction. You do it often enough, skillfully enough, and the frequency will deliver a different version, the new probability. It's just calculation. Also, an important insight here is that your mind can't tell the difference between imagined and experienced. It can't tell if it's a real memory or an implanted one. So plant your seeds, guys. Do it often. When I speak with clients of a particularly turbulent past, those who want to remove traumatic events from their life often don't want to. So I lean into the shaman and the quantum. I start by asking a simple question. I start by asking, do you want to be right or happy? Because I find that people cling to their hurt as if they're like getting it ready, preparing it to fling it back at someone, fling it in their face, as like to get the retribution that they deserve. But that memory hardens in the body, and it's never the original memory anyway. So you're not stuck in karma, you're looping because you're unconsciously choosing. So jump. Your soul came here to explore and to dance across timelines, not just heal one of them. It's all correlated anyway. Think how many lifetimes you lived in a single life. And then there's the hidden architecture, the astral light, subtle bodies, and the spiral time. Blavatsky was a mystic. Her book, Isis Unveiled, lays out the occult skeleton beneath the material reality. She's actually probably one of the reasons I had such a hard time in university because instead of studying, I was reading books on the occult and religion. And Isis Unveiled is a very thick book, and it's not easy. It wasn't easy. It's like written in old language and also esoteric language, and it took me many years to understand, or at least piece it together in a fashion that made any real sense in this world. The blueprint level of existence. This is what she talks about: the impressions from all time that are etched in Blavatsky's writing, and it's all steeped in old tradition, not just one. Her expertise in understanding the unseen realms and even physics, like physics at that time, is rooted in years that she traveled the world studying esoteric circles from adepts and energy workers. She did this for years. In this realm, time is not a line, but a spiral. Evolution is not forward, but recursive, deepening. Each loop a chance to correct, embody, and transcend. Shamans, Toltecs, Druids, Vedic seers mapped this terrain with trance, symbol, myth, and architecture. Their vision that the soul evolves in an ascending way through rhythmic steps within spirals, recursions, and revelations. To the Toltecs, the path of the impeccable warrior wasn't about war, it was about mastering dreaming and recapitulation. Every act of consciousness, especially facing memory, is a shift in a timeline. That's crazy. Carlos Castaneda, the writer, the mystic, his teachers spoke of breaking the mold of time, right? Accessing past future selves through control intent, so not to make the same mistakes. To the Druids, their rites were lunar and seasonal, also cyclical, time woven into the land, aligned with planetary energies. The solstices weren't dates, they were gates to other realities. Vibration. The ancients didn't just build temples for ritual, but for resonance. Oak groves were chosen for acoustic and telluric energy because beneath these temples often lie fault lines, natural underground water channels. These are known conduits of telluric energy, which is like a subtle geoelectric charge emitted by the earth. And we all run on Schumann's resonance, right? From Malta's Hypogeum to the King's Chamber of the Great Pyramid, from Newgrange to the Oracle Chamber of the Delphi. Certain ancient structures are acoustically tuned to specific frequencies. In many cases, these frequencies align with the human body's own resonant cavities, like the skull and the chest. There's physicality behind that, but the oracle room of the Hypergeum in Malta, for instance, resonates precisely at 111 hertz, a frequency that has been shown in modern EEG studies to induce a meditative, trance-like state, particularly stimulating the right prefrontal cortex. The ancients weren't guessing. They weren't just making things willy-nilly. They were engineering consciousness. Vedic seers speak of time as Kala, as both God and a destroyer. Through mantra and breath, the yogi steps outside time and re-enters the cosmic pulse. The yugas describe vast time cycles where humanity rises and falls in spiritual awareness. Consciousness rises and falls like the tides of an eternal ocean. And that there are four: Satya Yuga, the age of truth; Treta Yuga, the age of ritual; Dvapara Yuga, the age of doubt; and Kali Yuga, the age of darkness. We are now in Kali Yuga, the final, densest stage. It is the age where truth is hidden, where time moves fastest, where consciousness forgets its source. In the first Satya Yuga, humanity lived in harmony with divine laws. Telepathy, longevity, and luminous awareness, they were normal. There was no need for government or scripture because inner guidance was intact. But as the cycles advanced, spirit grew heavier. Ego emerged. The vision was born, power centralized, and by Kali Yuga, the cycle completes and time collapses. And yet the mystics say this forgetting is necessary. Why? Because the deeper the sleep, the more powerful the awakening. Just as winter prepares the seed for spring, the Kali Yuga sets the stage for rebirth. The spiral turns. As we descend, we reach a threshold, a moment of possible reversal. The yugas can be seen not only as epochs, but inner states. You live in Satya, aligned with truth. You enter Kali when ruled by fear. We cycle through all four, even within a single lifetime, or a single initiation. Between the folds of time lie the quantum rifts, places where soul can jump tracks. These are not daydreams or wishful fantasies, but potentialities within the quantum field. Shamans knew how to access these through rhythm, entheogens, deep trance, or dreaming, through these subtle realms. Personally, I'm fascinated, borderline obsessed with sleep. Anyone who knows me knows that you will get rage when my sleep is interrupted. And I do the whole thing. I do the whole shebang. I take melatonin. My bedroom has red lighting only. I meditate. I wear an eye mask. Sometimes I sleep like I'm mummified. I know it's odd, but that's because the realm of dreams as a hypnotist utterly fascinates me. Neuroscience only scratches the surface of what really happens when we become untethered, like the physicality of it, which I've slowly been writing a book about sleep and dreaming. And I stopped when I hit a wall, a research wall. I was studying how Buddhist monks do dream yoga, but it was difficult to really get anything real, like real substance. And then a friend introduced me to Peter Kingsley. What I was immediately drawn to was sleep incubation, another topic that I was scrounging information on. It's just the basics. And this is what medicine men and women did. They had this intricate knowledge of how the mind can navigate these realms and with such success. And so a lot of people, unbeknown to them, slip into these time realms or pass through the veil into like multiple realities. There once was this Reddit written by a man who had his whole life turned into a nightmare because he was mourning a life he lived that lasted years, only to realize that it all happened in the span of 10 seconds while he was unconscious and concussed. The man lost the love of his life, which was his wife, his two children, who he had said he still dreams of. A whole life of memories, vacations, deeply touching emotions that were taken away from him, usurped, and he was cajoled back to what seemed like a distant past to him. There are a few writings that remain that teach, but most knowledge is occulted, sometimes hidden in plain sight, but misunderstood. I mean, other ancients used spoken traditions that used metaphor and allegory, and it gets misunderstood as legend or myth. And so we live in this castrated reality with a faint taste, a faint memory. And sometimes it's tapped through dreams. Rudolf Steiner, who was an Austrian philosopher, occultist, and esotericists taught the spiritual hierarchies to guide humanity's unfolding across vast ages. He wrote and lectured that angels, archai, are higher beings. They oversee development of not just individuals, but of time itself. Steiner called them intelligent frequencies, spiritual beings, or hierarchies of consciousness, each one more refined than the last. Not gods in the old sense, not metaphors, but intelligences beyond our linear minds. They are not above us, they are within the architecture of time, matter, memory, and dream. Within. There are 9 orders. He was convinced that practice in this world would mean ascendance in the next. And each willing jump is not running away from destiny, but a re entry into a different frequency point, a higher resonance. The version of the self vibrating a more refined octave. We are on the path to evolve into all of these, from human to angel, archangel, and then perhaps planet and star. Shamans knew destiny is not fixed, it's orchestrated. And the true initiate? The one who can remember the notes before the song begins. And if you made it this far, thank you. And here's the truth that changed my timeline and altered my mental scape. The final revelation that forgetting was a calculated plan all along. Every sacred tradition speaks of a fall, not as a sin, but as a severance from memory. You forgot your origin, you forgot your future. But forgetting isn't failure, it's the mechanism. It's the fundamental construct of the modern world and civilized high culture. In June 1578, the Mughal ruler Altan Khan made his way to the western edges of his land after handing over an arrow. Just as Abaris the Hypergean was said to have handed his sacred arrow to Pythagoras more than 2,000 years earlier, as a sign of trust, transference of spiritual authority, and alignment with cosmic order. This ancient gesture echoed across time, from the steppes of Asia to the oracles of Greece. The arrow symbolized not only power, but access to invisible realms. It was knowledge. When Altan Khan finally joined up with a Tibetan monk, trudging for months to meet with him, he honored the monk by making him the first Tibetan ever to receive the Mongolian title Dalai Lama, which means Ocean of Wisdom. But this meeting was not just ceremonial, it marked the merging of empire and religion, a political alliance cloaked in spiritual language. In return, the newly anointed Dalai Lama asked for a favor of profound consequence: that Altan Khan wipe out every trace of shamanism among the Mongol people, silence their songs, destroy their drums, kill the shamans who resisted. This wasn't a fringe idea, it was a campaign. Shamanism, with its ecstatic roots and direct communion with the unseen, stood as a threat to the institutional hierarchy that Tibetan Buddhism was building in Mongolia. But Tibetans were not alone in this effort. Across Asia and the world, whenever a high culture encountered shamanic traditions deeply embedded in the earth, the stars, the body, trance, the reaction followed a chillingly similar pattern. Appropriate, invalidate, exterminate. Take what you can, symbols, techniques, cosmologies, then rewrite them, the narrative, so that the origin is forgotten and branded as primitive. Finally, erase the practitioners themselves. The Soviets in the 20th century deployed an arsenal of psychiatric hospitals, gulags, and ideological re education to crush shamanic lineages in Siberia. Christian missionaries, under the banner of salvation, raised the cosmologies of the Americas, Oceania, and Africa, Even anthropologists, under the guise of observation, often helped neutralize the living transmission of these ways by fossilizing them into museum pieces or academic curiosities. Shamanism, once the universal spiritual technology of the ancient world, became increasingly dangerous to the centralized power. In Mesopotamia, the ecstatic priests of Inanna were absorbed and regulated. In Egypt, early trance workers were replaced by priestly bureaucracy. In Greece, the wild rites of Dionysus were curtailed and recoded into drama. In Mesoamerica, the jaguar shamans gave way to empire cults. Yet in every region, north, south, east, west, shamanism formed the root of sacred knowledge. Because it was not about belief, it was about direct experience through altered states, nature based ritual, and deep symbolic language of dreams. Shamans functioned as healers, psychopomps, time walkers, and cosmic diplomats. They remembered that the stars and the cells speak the same language, that illness and war begin in the soul, and that the veil between dimensions is thin if one knows how to walk it. This direct power was the problem. No hierarchy, no need for intermediaries, no temples, no texts, no taxes, just the drum, the fire, the knowing. So those who build empire, religious or secular, had every reason to suppress the shaman, even within Tibetan Buddhism itself. The roots lie in shamanic bond traditions, sky travel, oracle possession, elemental spirits. But once Buddhism became state religion, it sought to separate itself from its own primal origins. The shaman became the shadow, useful when absorbed, dangerous when independent. With logic cloaked in virtue, even atrocities were recast. Burning shamans alive was rebranded as an act of compassion, liberating them from delusion. One of the most influential Buddhist teachers in the Western world once said, without hesitation, of course it was justified. The shamanic path was a dead twig. It had to be snapped off for the tree to grow. Not a lie. And trees without roots eventually wither. Today, as we face crisis of meaning, mind, and planet, the echoes of these ancient shamans return in dreams, in art, in the remembering. Because they were never truly gone, just hidden, like seeds in the dark, waiting for us to remember how to listen. My name is Agnes, and if you found any of this interesting, fascinating, or entertaining, please enchant the like button. Consider subscribing. It really helps a tiny channel. I bridge my love of the occult, esoteric, and forbidden ancient history with my understanding of the mind and my work in hypnosis. So until next time, I'll see you from beneath the veil. Have a good one.